Hey guys, this is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 163. And this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. So we go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week. Let's see what was worst pick of the week. We have 23 comics this week, so it's a pretty big haul. And we are moving on to worst pick of the week, number 23, which is Civil War II, Choosing Sides, issue 6. Now, I pretty much bought this book just for Jessica Jones, and her story was okay. Not really necessary, but okay. I liked especially the beginning opening of taking Patsy. I thought that was kind of a cool philosophy thing going on in the beginning. But then after that, it's all about Ulysses, of course. I thought they could have just done more with her and her character. Then you have a White Tiger story and Nick Fury story. The Nick Fury story I'd never really cared about, but if you like Nick Fury, it does continue his plot and I guess his role in the Marvel Universe. And then the White Tiger storyline, again, a character I just didn't really connect to that much. But the artwork is what really did it for me with Jessica Jones. I really didn't like it. Proportions were way off on some of the scenes. The coloring was okay, but yeah, artwork overall, even the Nick Fury one's very simple, which I didn't really like. The White Tiger artwork was pretty good. But yeah, just overall, you didn't really need to read it. You know, it didn't really add much to any of the characters for me. So I gave it 2 stars, and that is number 23. Alright, moving on to number 22, which I'm surprised to see this book so low. But, The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 18. So this issue also is not in the point of view of Peter. So if you wanted a Peter Parker story, that's not happening in this issue and didn't happen in the last issue. This instead continues pretty much Superior Spider-Man. For me, I'm not a huge Superior Spider-Man fan. I guess liked it for when it was happening, but now I'm kind of over it, and I don't really need to see it again. And I didn't really like the looming idea that Dr. Octopus is coming back, and he's back, and they're continuing that story and the whole theme of being superior. I'm like, I read 30 issues of that, I don't need more of it. So, I didn't really like it. I think it just all depends on if you are a Superior Spider-Man fan or if you aren't. So, The Amazing Spider-Man issue 18 gets 2 stars for me. I just didn't think it was a necessary issue for me personally, and that is why it's number 22. Moving on to number 21. Which is a book I'm really surprised to see this low, and that is Batman issue 7. I think last time this came out was my pick of the week, and now it's this low. This issue has to deal with the Night of the Monster Men crossover, which I already said I was kind of nervous for this crossover because do we need it? You know, all these other titles have so much good momentum going on, especially Batman with Gotham Girl, and then you go into this story to kind of break apart that momentum, and that's kind of what happened here. It's a story that I don't think was necessary to have a crossover, maybe a mini-series if you want to read it, but I don't think it needed to be a crossover, even though it is fun to see these characters interact. But honestly, we do see these characters interact in like Detective Comics. Maybe it could have just been a Detective Comics story, I don't know, but very much lost momentum here. I wasn't very interested in the monsters and Hugo Strange in general here, so, and also the artwork I didn't really like. They all have very small heads, very big eyes, if you can see that. It wasn't really for me. So, Batman issue 7 gets 2 stars, and that is number 21, I believe. Let's see. Yes, so we're moving on to number 20, which is another low book. Green Arrow, issue 7. Green Arrow, for me, I think has improved a little bit. It has improved with the artwork, but at the same time, I don't really feel like the story is necessary. Just kind of like the Batman thing. As much as I really like, honestly, Emiko's point of view a little bit more, it didn't do much for me, the Clock King or any of the villains from the present or the past. It's kind of repetitive of, alright, we know Emiko and Oliver don't have the best relationship. We know that she doesn't have the best relationship with her mom. And I think, honestly, it could have been more character-driven. It definitely felt more plot-driven than character-driven, even though Emiko is the main lead here. I think if it was more character-driven, I would have gotten more out of this. So, Green Arrow issue 7 is a little bit of an improvement, but still, overall not feeling the series. So Green Arrow issue 7 gets 2.5 stars. That was number 20, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, that was number 20. So we're moving on to number 19, which is also part of the Night of the Monster Men story arc, and that was Nightwing, issue 5, which I'm really debating after this if I want to pick it up. Maybe I might drop it until Bloodhaven. I don't know, because he's going to be returning to Bloodhaven soon. So I might drop it for the first arc and then pick it up later. But yeah, Nightwing I thought was a little better because the art was better. It's the same art as Nightwing, which is not the best artwork, but it was an improvement from what we saw in the Batman title this week. And I like Gotham Girl. I like that she was added a little bit here, so it was a little bit more character driven, but still don't really care about the Monster Men. So I gave this 2.5 stars. Alright, so now we're moving on to number 18, which is Injustice Gods Among Us, Year 5, Issue 18. I will say this is probably a better Deathstroke story than the actual Deathstroke series. But at the same time, I think Injustice Gods Among Us Year 5 has lost a lot of steam. And it's just kind of giving us a lot of filler issues. And Deathstroke kind of proves that. It's Deathstroke on a mission trying to stop Superman. It's kind of, again, it's very repetitive. We've seen it a billion times. I really think this year should have ended a while ago and just go into the next year. So I gave it 2.5 stars. It didn't really leave a dent for me. It's kind of forgettable. So that was number 18. Moving on to number 17, a book that I have fun with overall, and that is Powerpuff Girls issue 3. I have fun with this issue. There are some characters I'm like, why do you exist? There's the unicorn character that I haven't been watching the news show, so maybe he's part of the new show. I'm like, really? Does the Powerpuff Girls really need a pony best friend? I don't know. But I actually did laugh with it, which is what I want from Powerpuff Girls, and why I read the comic instead of the cartoon is because cartoon I don't love the voice acting, so I'm like, I miss my old voice actors, but at least here you get your Powerpuff Girls feel and kind of have the voice actors of the old show in your mind when you're reading it. That's kind of what I do. But yeah, this issue, again, it was fun, it was funny. I liked, what's her name, Princess Morbucks, I thought was a fun villain, still is. You know, bringing back the older villains is great. But yeah, the unicorn, like, he is funny, but at the same time, like, do we really need you? I don't know. But the artwork was fun. We get to see Bubbles, like, biting a lot of stuff, which they made into really fun comedy. So I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was an okay issue, and still seeing where it goes, because, again, it's fun to read in comic form more than the TV show. Moving on to number 16, which is Guardians of the Galaxy issue 12. And this issue was okay. I think if you read the last issue of Civil War II, it fills in the blanks of like, oh, this is why the Guardians decided to do this. At the same time, did we need those blanks filled? We knew why they did it. They're like, oh, Captain Marvel, she's our friend, let's do this. So a lot of it feels filler. It's very just like, oh my god, we need to fill up the air because Civil War II is still going on and we really can't do anything with the Guardians till after that. Let's just, you know, make them talk a little bit. It's not really character driven either. It's just really a lot of talking about the same thing for 20 pages. It's like, oh yeah, you know, we're on Captain Marvel's side. There are some fun parts of the issue though, like, you know, there's definitely a lot of fun back and forth, which is why it's a little higher than the other books. It's good artwork, but very forgettable book. So overall, I gave Guardians of the Galaxy issue 12. I gave it 3 stars, and it was not a necessary Civil War II tie-in. I'd rather it just tied in after and say, hey, we're on Earth, we're stuck here. Alright, moving on to number 15, a book I've been a little disappointed in because I see so much potential with, and that's Empress issue 6. I love Mark Millar's writing, but I feel like with his writing, he tends to write really cool characters, really good premises, but then towards the end, it always falls flat. I saw that with Huck, and I'm seeing this with Empress. The story hasn't really moved for a while. It's just like them traveling space and trying to escape their father/husband, so the kid's father and Empress's husband, and then the predictable thing happens where we have, you know, Empress, our main character, she's hiding with her sister, and then she ends up maybe having a relationship with the guy who's, helping her, and the daughter's like, no, this is horrible, I'm gonna go call daddy and tattletale, which is something that was foreshadowed for a while, that she would do that. I think it would have been more interesting if it was another character who did that, because that's how it's gonna end, is like, oh, of course, the husband and wife are gonna fight, or she's gonna escape again. So I think there needs to be a little bit more plot development here to make it interesting, because a lot of it's just kind of too simple for me, even though the characters have a lot of potential. So Empress issue 6 is predictable, sadly, and I gave that 3 stars. Okay, so we are moving on to number 14, which is Civil War II issue 5. Another disappointing book, because overall I've been really liking Civil War II. I like the series overall, but this was very repetitive. It was all fighting, which I think you could have had in another title. I mean, all these tie-ins, you could have had another tie-in where it's like, oh, let's all fight. The Guardians of the Galaxy book on one hand, they could have done that, which they kind of already did. But yeah, with this issue, the ending was really, really repetitive with Miles Morales, Ulysses has a vision of Miles Morales killing Captain America. Didn't this happen already with Hawkeye and Hulk? Why do we need to do it again? It's just so repetitive, and especially because this book has already, said, hey, we were only going to do 7 issues, but we're adding 1 more because we need it. Like, did you really need this subplot to happen? I mean, I'll see in the future, but I don't think you really needed it. So, very repetitive, very action heavy, but why it's a little higher than some of the other books is that the artwork was beautiful, so the action scenes were enjoyable. So Civil War II issue 5 gets 3 stars. So I believe that was number 15. Let's see. Oh no, that was number 14. So we're moving on to number 13, which is another Civil War II tie-in. All New Wolverine issue 12. This book was definitely better towards the end. I will say there's a little bit of a lull in the beginning. It's a very quick read. You can tell that this wasn't the planned story for Wolverine. That was kind of forced to be tied into Civil War II. But overall, I think Tom Taylor did a good job with it. Really defining Old Man Logan's relationship with Laura, and learning a little bit more about Gabby, that she has the abilities of Wolverine. She has 1 claw, and you do want to know what the future is going to hold, because Old Man Logan's like, Gabby's going to ruin you. You're not going to be, a good person. You might be dead. And you do wonder, is Old Man Logan right? Does Gabby really have this destiny? Which is kind of an interesting theme to tie into Civil War II's. Like, should you be defined by your destiny? So should Gabby be defined by her destiny? So I'm glad that storyline will be progressing and moving forward, hopefully when we get the looks awesome, Enemy of the State Wolverine story, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, for me, I thought it was an okay issue. Like I said, I think the ending really built it up, and at least it made it interesting. And the other stuff, but it's kind of a quick read, and could have added a little bit more. But again, it does feel a little forced to tie in, but I liked what Tom Taylor did overall. So All New Wolverine issue 12 gets 3.5 stars. And that was number 13. And we are moving on to number 12, which is Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat, which I loved and hated all at the same time. I really liked that Kate Leth really went on a limb here. She became really creative with this issue, where you see Patsy in hell, pretty much, and her dealing with her past and knowing that she has this anger. But at the same time, she makes it funny. She makes it comedic. And I think that was, what I liked and hated about the issue. Like, I like that we have this contrast of, this comedy where there is some anger, there is some real interesting personal character development here. But then it's kind of, I feel like it doesn't know what tone it's going for, because Hellcat, it's very much like this, fun read, all kids, all ages type book. But then when you have this issue, you're trying to deal with the character's past, which is pretty dark, but you still have that fun tone. So it's kind of confusing at the same time, which is why I didn't really know where to place this, because I enjoyed it, And then the cliffhanger kind of killed it, though. I'm like, oh, Black Cat, really? The puns of Hellcat versus Black Cat. And then also Hetty, like, always disappearing and not really knowing what her character is, and she's been a part of this book for 10 issues, and still she could be a stronger villain. So that's why I'm kind of in the middle. But, going on that limb, making it, about Patsy's past and kind of her anger, I thought was interesting. So overall, I gave Hellcat issue 10 3.5 stars. I think it definitely had good ideas in this book, but I just don't know if it was completely executed as well as I wanted it to be. Alright, so we're moving on to number 11, which is Robin Hood, I Love New York, issue 4, which I think is a pretty solid book overall. This issue kind of slows things down. It kind of feels like a one-shot where Robin Hood has to save this girl's brother from this clown creature, and she does. That's the end, showing that New York is not all bad, which I like the theme of that. The artwork, there were 2 different artists. You could kind of tell the difference of that, but I usually don't like that, but it was pretty consistent throughout. But yeah, I liked it. I think it was a little forgettable, the story, just because it felt so one-shotty, but I'm sure it will attach and hopefully attach to the other stories in the future. So, Robin Hood, I Love New York gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 10, which is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 7, which still is a 3.5 star book. It has not gone past that, it has not come below that. It's slow, I would say. This issue is slow, but you do get some interesting character development with Trinity, trying to fix the Morphers, Billy being kidnapped, and the team without their powers really having to trust Tommy. But at the same time, I feel like there could have been more meat in this issue. There's small moments for the characters, but not huge moments for such a slow issue. So it is a build-up issue. I did like it, but I still want a little more from this series. So the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 7 gets 3.5 stars, and as number 10. Moving on to number 9, glad to see this title higher than it usually is, and that is Superman issue 7, which is a filler issue, and that's fine. I think this actually deserved a filler issue. We had the whole Eradicator story for such a long time, and I think it really needed to slow down and focus on what we love about this series, which is the Smiths, now they're called. They were the Whites, now they're the Smiths. So it's great to see them, and it's them going to a carnival, and Superman, being Superman. It was fun just to see those family dynamics, and the art did change, where I felt like it's still cartoony, but definitely not as abstract and exaggerated. So I really did like the artwork here. So thumbs up there. And I thought this is a solid issue and a good filler issue, a fun issue. So I overall gave this 4 stars. I thought it was an improvement from what we've been getting. So Superman issue 7 is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Joyride issue 5. A book I'm very happy turned into an ongoing series because I am really enjoying Joyride. This issue is a really fun character building issue where we get to see our princess character really opening up, not putting on the makeup anymore, showing who she is. And then maybe the love of our male lead and our female lead, Una, I think her name is. But they're on a planet where their romance and their hormones are a little higher, so you wonder, is it true? Does he really like her? Does he not? And what does that mean for their friendship? Again, really good character building issue, but also world building issue to know, like, they're explorers, and really good artwork. Love the art style for this book. Read it. I feel like it's under the radar book. Again, I'm very glad it's an ongoing series. So Joyride issue 5 gets a solid 4 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is the Astonishing Ant Man issue 12, which you guys usually know is in my top 5. But this definitely slows things down for the penultimate issue, and I think it's going to really become a really good finale where it's all about Scott on trial. It definitely is not misleading, and you have the Beetle, who is the other lawyer against him and knows everything he did. Also, Cassie, you know, blaming herself and telling the truth to her mom is like, hey, this is my fault, don't blame my dad. So we'll see if maybe Cassie will be able to save the day, because she's on the cover for the next issue. But also you're seeing a little bit more of Darren Cross and that side of the story, and dealing with the Pym particles. So overall, really fun, solid issue, which gets me excited for the next issue. So the Astonishing Ant Man issue 12 gets 4 stars, and that is number 7. Number 6 is a book I was really surprised by, and that was Raven, issue 1. I really enjoyed this. This is actually written by the creator of Raven, Martha Wolfman. And I like this issue because it's a cool contrast, because it's Raven, you know, this dark character going to high school, and she's living in this very religious family's home, which is her aunt's home. And she goes to school. I would say is a little bit of a cop-out how quickly she made friends. And you don't really know her friends. I think that this issue could better develop them. But overall, like I said, even the art contrast was really good, where you get to see she's very, you know, this dark aurora, you know, darkness to her, and then you have all this light coloring, so I really like that. It's a very light book. Even this high school stuff is very light, so I like the contrast there. Very good artwork. And then we see that there might be a character just like Raven in her high school. So I really like this issue. Thought it was a very solid issue, and if you never liked Raven or you don't know anything about her, I think this is a good jumping on point to just kind of see what her character's all about. So Raven issue 1 gets 4 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, so we are in top 5 now. A book that it was also a filler, but I had a lot of good time with, and glad to see this book improving, and that is Green Lanterns issue 7. I really think this is a solid book, and this issue, it deals with Jessica's anxiety, once again, but also Simon's family, and learning more about his relationship with his mom, and really telling her, hey, I'm a Green Lantern, what do you think about that? And, you know, he's done stuff in the past that's bad, and he wanted to fix that, and really be a noble son for his mother. So I really liked it, and what I really especially liked about this issue is, again, the bonding between Jessica and Simon, really seeing that they're partners. And for some reason, you know, I don't know why I didn't think about this as I was reading it, but partners as in cops also, and obviously they're the cops for the galaxy, but when they kept saying partners, I'm like, yeah, that makes even more sense. So I really like that they're kind of taking the cop dynamic even more here. So I really thought this was a solid issue, and again, it built the characters of Simon and Jessica really well in this issue. So I gave that 4 stars, and that was number 5. Moving on to number 4, which glad to see this in my top 5, Archie issue 12. Again, the artwork is still a little darker since new artists went on, but still kind of keeping that vibe that Fiona Staples provided us in the first arc of this book. And this issue deals with Betty and Archie being friends, and the boyfriend and girlfriend being jealous. So what happens with Betty's boyfriend? He keeps saying, hey, Betty, if you don't kind of hang out with me, if you keep trying to help Archie, we're going to break up. And then Veronica, playing hard to get about it all, and then she kind of understands when she has a conversation with Betty, and then she ends up having to leave because her father loses the mayoral campaign. So now she has to leave Riverdale, and she doesn't want to, and Archie loses her, you know, his chance. So I'm sure, you know, Veronica will come back, but now we have this kind of maybe issue or 2, or maybe arc where we won't see Veronica, and what is that going to do with Archie and Betty's relationship? So I thought this was a very good issue, just establishing Betty and Archie's friendship once again, but also how that affects their relationship, their other romantic relationships. So Archie issue 12 gets a solid 4 stars, and I'm loving this book. If you aren't reading Archie, read it, because it's a really good book. Alright, moving on to number 3, a surprising book. This actually was my pick of the week when it came out, but I've been really surprised with this last arc, and this is the last issue of the book, International Iron Man issue 7. I kind of wish that International Iron Man was only like a 3-issue miniseries talking about this story, because all the other stuff really didn't connect anywhere until we actually got to Tony's parents. And what I said in my review for issue 6, I'm going to say here too. I never really cared for the idea that Tony had different parents, But Brian Michael Bendis is making me like these characters, making me like his new parents, and we get to see more of that story. It's a continuation of Tony's mother being pregnant and why she gave him away, which is her, her boyfriend or fiance or, the person she had a child with was a Hydra agent. And he tries to describe it as like, no, it's good, we have money. And she's like, no, that's not happening. And kills him. And I was like, whoa, didn't see that one coming. Artwork I really like too. It's a bit darker, but kind of works for this whole espionage thing. I really like it. I like the book overall, and I thought it was a good ending. We finally see Tony and his mom meet up. And we'll see that continue in the other Iron Man titles. Again, don't really think we needed an International Iron Man book. I don't even know if this was an International Iron Man book, but I really liked this last arc, and that's the most important, because that's what's going to be striving into, or delving into the other series that's we're going to see the aftermath with. So, International Iron Man issue 7 actually gets 4.5 stars for me. Really enjoyed this issue, and really liked the dialogue, and just learning more about Tony's mom was really cool. So moving on to number 2, this is kind of hard because I really like both these books a lot, but number 2 is Trinity issue 1, which I am a huge Francis Manapul fan, so seeing him write this book and doing the gorgeous artwork where we get to see Bruce Wayne in flannel right there, and Diana just kind of dressed in a regular dress, so you're seeing everyone being casual and just hanging out and being friends. But it's not just, Bruce, Diana, and Superman being friends. It's also Lois being part of this friendship. And seeing how their relationship is with John. And I thought it was a really good issue. The only thing that kind of took me out of it was the cliffhanger. I think happened really quickly, where, I connected the dots of what happened. It was like, all right, they're seeing some past that's going on, I guess that'll be connected to the next issue and building their friendship more. But it kind of comes out of the blue and really quickly, the cliffhanger. That's my only negative. And also it's a very quick read, this issue. But overall, if you are a fan of any of these characters, you should read this, especially if you missed the friendship. The friendship is built so well here, and this is what I want from DC Rebirth. I love this issue, gushing over this issue. Really enjoyed Trinity. So Trinity issue 1 gets 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, which is the Mighty Thor issue 11. I really enjoyed this book this week, especially for the ending. I will say the villains were a little weaker, and some of the perspective of the artwork could have been better. Like, I feel like sometimes I didn't know where I was because there's so many close-ups, but the artwork is still gorgeous for the book. I really love the detail, even looking at Jane over there, really good detail. So yeah, I just love the art, the action. Look at that thunder right there. But then you can see again what I'm saying about the perspectives. Like, it was kind of hard to see what was going on in each scene. But overall, still great facial expressions and artwork in general. But the reason this was my pick of the week, honestly, was the whole idea of Jane's hammer. I thought was really cool. I thought it was really cool to see Jane's hammer come to life and learn more about Jane's hammer. And I thought it was gonna be a cop-out. I thought it would be like Loki, being Jane is like, oh, you owe me, but it wasn't. It actually delved into bringing us more story and learning more about the hammer in the next issue. But also another scene I really enjoyed was Roz and Jane, kind of seeing their relationship and friendship develop, and Jane saying, I know how it feels to be lied to. I'm not going to lie to you. You're my friend. You've always been supportive. I've been where you're at, so I'm going to tell you, I'm Jane Foster. And I like the back and forth because Roz at first says, I thought the hammer was Jane. What's going on? So that's why I made it my pick of the week, because there are some really good character moments in this issue, a nice twist in the issue that I didn't expect, and good artwork. I really enjoyed this issue, and I like that we get to see Jane and Thor. And what I mean is kind of just seeing more of the human side of Jane, which I think has been kind of missing in this Thor series in the recent issues. So the Mighty Thor issue 11 gets my pick of the week, and that is number 1 on the list. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of all the comics this week. What was your worst pick of the week? What was your best pick of the week? And everything in between. And I'll see you guys later. This is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. I'll see you guys later. Bye.